so much for that, and thank you for your welcome. And I might add that besides the Tuesday night Course in Miracles class, I'm privileged to be a member of another group that meets during the week, led by Reverend Paula Ryan. So my teacher's here, so. Okay. We sang one of my favorite songs this morning, and probably maybe one of the songs that pretty much summarizes everything that we do in New Thought, which is, I am the thinker. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts that changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, and I have the power to change my life. Quite often when we repeat words, the same words over and over again, we kind of get used to them, and they kind of, they kind of lose a little bit of their impact and their meaning. So, but as a follower of the Unity teachings, you might be aware that we're part of a movement called New Thought, which amazingly concentrates mostly on thought and thinking. In metaphysical philosophy and New Thought, and also all the organizations that developed out of that, of which Unity is one, we teach about the power of creative thought over and over and over. In New Thought, we take ancient ideas and apply them to everyday life in our current times, in our lives that we live right now. And I don't know about you, but quite often I find myself getting sidetracked, losing my focus and forgetting about the importance, the promise, the wonder of all of these ideas. And that's easy to do with all the chaos that we choose to see out there, and we get caught up in all the news and everything. I had an experience a few weeks ago that I want to share with you. That's why I'm carrying this little flower here. So, and it kind of brought home everything that also encouraged me to develop this for today. One Tuesday evening after Course in Miracles class, we were all leaving, and I stopped to visit with Michael, who was working next door to us. And I had a cup of water in my hand that I was going to drop in the kitchen on my way out. And I noticed this beautiful bouquet of purple flowers sitting over on the credenza. And the water level was getting a little bit low, so I thought, oh, I'll use the water and just put it in here and water the flowers. And Michael had a cup of water. He said, here, take mine, add that to it. So we did. Well, in the process of all of this, this bloom fell off the bouquet. And I'm going, oh no, it's going to die. So I picked it up, cradled it, took it home with me. And as I was looking for a little dish to put it in, there was a wire that pricked my finger. And I'm going, oh, wow. And so immediately I'm going, well, that was really stupid to think that. And it's like, and then it's like, no, it is a real flower. It's a real silk flower, and which does not take away from the beauty of it. But it pointed out to me very, very vividly how our thoughts and our thinking process create what we see. So I keep my little iris close by to remind me of all of that. And isn't it amazing how such a mundane experience can just bring home such fantastic ideas for us? And now I don't know where to put it. I'd put it behind my ear, but it'd mess up everything. So we'll set it right there. Okay. So let's explore how our thoughts impact our experience and how we can choose to be that creative force that's talked about in our daily word today, that's talked about in our songs we sing. Even in Trinity's Choice of Music, the very first song, I'm Not Alone, which is so very true. And there's an overwhelming amount of material out there about thinking and thoughts. The American Heritage Dictionary defines thinking as to formulate in the mind, to reason, to judge or regard, to visualize, to devise or invent, to believe, and suppose. The Buddha is quoted as saying, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And of course, Charles Fillmore, being our founder of Unity, had quite a bit to say about thinking. In Revealing Word, Mr. Fillmore says, "Thoughts are things. The thinking faculty is the inlet and the outlet of all your ideas." From the book Christian Healing, we read, "Thought is the creative power by which man builds a mentality and a body." In his book Prosperity, Mr. Fillmore says, "Through our thoughts we garner our power." In Mark 7:15, Jesus says, "There is nothing from without the man that going into him can defile him, but the things which proceed out of the man are those that defile the man. If any man hath ears to hear, let him hear." Keep in mind, we women are included in that. You know, in Aramaic, they didn't always distinguish gender. So, usually when Jesus wanted his listeners to sit up and pay attention, he used the phrase, "If you have ears to hear or eyes to see." And it also would indicate that there is deeper meaning just in the surface of the words. So I believe that Jesus is saying here that what goes on around us need not make us fearful or concerned or angry. It's how we process, how we perceive those things, and the way in which we respond to those things that creates our experience. Our perception is a product of thoughts. And in Course of Miracles, we learn that a miracle is actually simply a change of perception. And in Lesson 15 in Course in Miracles, Jesus, again, is saying, "My thoughts are images that I have made." In Chapter 2, he says, "The truth is that you are responsible for what you think, because it is only at this level that you can exercise choice. What you do becomes what you think." So I interpret this to mean you must change your mind, not your behavior necessarily, and this is a matter of willingness. So, do you all get overwhelmed at times with everything that's going on around us? Patrick talked about shaking it off was it last week? By changing our thoughts is how we can shake this off. Once we are seated in our inner self, in our Christ self, we can then take appropriate action. Doing this doesn't mean we just stand by necessarily, but we are led to do what is the appropriate thing to do in any situation. And how do you go about changing those thoughts? If we look only at the outer world, we might make some changes temporarily, and they may work for a while, but eventually we're going to start feeling that fear and that anger and discomfort, maybe even boredom. So it's important to be able to go within. All true change must begin at our source, that is within, at our core. Be ready to recognize discomfort, because it is an impetus for change. It's an urge to do something different, to see something different, and it's always a choice. We may be happy in our suffering, and we may decide to continue that, and the universe will support us in that. We can also choose to make a difference. Myrtle Fillmore said that when we get tired of living in our shadow, simply turn around and look to the light. But I will caution you to be ready. Once you open yourself to this experience, you're going to be flooded with opportunities to practice this. You know, the universe is very generous to us. It always gives us what we ask for. So, we're inspired to make a change. How do we handle that? And by the way, the word inspire comes from in spirit. So, you can keep that in mind. How do we change our thoughts? Some practices that I have learned, and I've had many wonderful teachers, are awareness, willingness, forgiveness, gratitude, a sense of humor, and always going within. Now this looks like a list, it looks like steps, and that's not really how it works. They're not steps. There's not a hierarchy here. All of these practices work together and they interweave themselves in your experience. And in a way, they're a tapestry of growth and they create a spiral for our transformation. Allow yourself to become aware of your thoughts. Pay attention. Pay attention especially to your reactions to what's going on around you. Look especially closely to those situations and people who make you the most uncomfortable. These are our true blessings because they bring you the greatest lessons and they stimulate the greatest growth. Willingness is also an important attribute. Truly looking at your thoughts can be very uncomfortable. So be willing to be open to the experience. And it doesn't take a great deal of willingness, just a tiny little bit will send you on your way. The word willingness is closely associated with the attitude of humility. And in Aramaic, humility comes from the root word for meek. And again, Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Now, in this sense, meekness does not mean weakness. It actually means being open and willing to soften those places inside of you that has crystallized in order to make way for that healing, for that wholeness, for that awareness of God within. Once you open yourself to this transformation, you'll be gifted with many opportunities to practice forgiveness. You might see things about yourself that are quite disturbing. I know I did. And sometimes it's a little different coming to terms with those. So beware of seeing things as good or bad. Don't beat yourself up about the past or about anything that you do during this process that might make you feel a little bit off. So observe all that comes into your awareness. A wise person once told me that we make decisions at any point in our life based on the knowledge and the awareness that we had at the time. So forgive yourself and others. And another lesson from Course in Miracles says, "My grievances hide the light of the world within me." Practice gratitude every day, every moment, for everything. You know all those people and situations that put you on edge? Be especially grateful for them. They bring you the most growth. And I've also found it very useful and fun to develop a sense of humor about all of this. And when I talk about a sense of humor, I'm not talking about that debasing, cruel type of humor that we sometimes see, but a habit that brings joy and kindness into your experience and helps you to relieve tension. So the more I observe my behavior, the more I get to laugh. What a gift. You know, laughter, the act of smiling, has a direct impact on your brain. It helps to increase the endorphins in your physical body. So it's a good thing to laugh. And as always, repeatedly go within, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. Create a mantra that you can bring to mind to center yourself. A few that I have learned during the course of my experience are, "I am as God created me. Let me see this rightly. What is mine to do in this situation?" And one of my very favorites, "I could choose peace instead of this." So find a touchstone that's meaningful to you, that seats you in spirit. One of my favorite writers, Joel Goldsmith, says, "It is the turning within that brings forth the answer that's already there." So by going within, we become open to our inner wisdom. As you know, unity is based on 5 principles. The 4th unity principle identifies 4 tools available to us to foster transformation. They are denials, affirmations, prayer, and meditation. And all of these are useful. But today I'd like to talk a little bit about prayer as one vehicle that carries us within and supports us and enhances our personal transformation. In the Aramaic language, the root word for prayer is sla, S-L-A, and it means to trap. It's one of the many meanings of it, or to catch. So in the sense of prayer, we set our mind like a trap so you can catch the goodness and holiness and the presence of God that's within you. And we all know prayer is a method of attunement to divine wisdom. Through prayer, we remember our connection with God, and it opens a pathway to commune with God. The Lord's Prayer has been a model for prayer in the Christian world for many, many centuries. It's been translated many times, and most of the translations we see are from the Greek. If you go back to the original Aramaic, you can get a fuller meaning of what these words mean. And also, one thing I found out in researching for today, many other traditions other than Christianity have an Our Father prayer. I thought that was interesting. Now, when I discovered New Thought teachings back in the early 80s, I was at a community called Center for Creative Living with Mary Beth Olson. I do not know how I ended up there. I just arrived one day, and I felt like I'd come home. I made so many wonderful discoveries during my time there studying with Mary Beth, and one of the most awesome ones was meeting our Betty Charles, who's here with us today. So hi, Betty. Another one was learning the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. Reverend Mary Beth was a student of Dr. Rocco Errico, who was also a student of Dr. George Lamza. Dr. Lamza was a native of Assyria, and he grew up in an area where Aramaic was the spoken language, and he studied his Christian teachings through the Aramaic texts. So now I'm not going to say the Aramaic prayer to you today because it's been a long time and I've forgotten more than I remember. But it's quite beautiful when you listen to it, and if you pull it up on YouTube, on Google, you'll see some wonderful translations of that. Some time ago I discovered this wonderful book called Prayers of the Cosmos. It's written by Dr. Neil Douglas Klotz. And Dr. Klotz has spent a lot of time researching this and speaking Aramaic himself and bringing the English words back into the Aramaic. In this book, he explains line by line and interprets the origin of the words of the prayer. Dr. Klotz is a PhD in religious studies and the author of several books, as well as one of the organizers of Universal Dances of Peace. He uses the Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the Gospels, also known as the Peshitta version, as a source. He acknowledges that there are many others that disagree with his translations. There's a lot of different material out there, a lot of different interpretations, and it's really difficult anyway when you want to translate something from one language into a new language, especially from a language of people whose culture is so different from ours. But I really like his translations, and feel free to explore those further if you like. Aramaic is a language that expresses many levels of meaning all at the same time, and they're not exclusive of one another. They all work together in that interweaving that we see. You can gain meaning from the literal, the metaphysical, as well as the mystical. One word in Aramaic can have many meanings, and they can seem quite different. Aramaic is also a language deeply connected to the earth. There are a lot of references to planting and harvesting. It's full of views of the natural wonder of the cosmos. And Aramaic is also a rich language in sound meaning and vibration. You experience the words. You don't just sit and recite them. You actually experience the words when you're speaking that. You can feel direction, color, movement, other body sensations that certain sacred words resonate with. And this was ingrained in the culture, and it's difficult for our Western background to grasp that full experience, but we do our best. Now, the Lord's Prayer is found in Matthew 6, verses 9 to 13, and also in Luke 11 to 20, chapter 11, verse 2 to 4. Emmett Fox, the great metaphysical teacher of the mid-20th century, says that this prayer is a compact formula for development of the soul. Jesus gave us this gift as an example of a way to commune with God. And he said, pray in this manner. He didn't say, repeat these words. He said, pray in this manner. He also cautioned us several times not to pray with empty words, but with sincerity, honoring our divine source. Now, there are 7 clauses in the prayer and an ending affirmation. Metaphysically, 7 would indicate individual completeness or perfection. And also, Jesus uses the invocatory, I knew I was going to mess that up, form of prayer. So, since I knew it, I did. This is not to be confused with supplicatory prayer, which is to beg or plead. The mystics tell us begging is never a way to address God. So to invoke means to call upon, to turn to a higher power for assistance or for guidance. The Bible quotes that I've used here and from Dr. Klotz's book are from the King James Version of the Bible. And then I've condensed an interpretation of each phrase in the book, because in the book they're quite extensive, so you'd need actually a morning to look at each one of them. The first phrase, Our Father, who art in heaven. The word used here for father is abun, and it goes beyond father or mother. It talks about the cosmic parent, the creator, or the cause of all that is. Dwashmaya translates as heaven, and it refers to the universe, the presence of God, the motion of the divine. So we might say, birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. Radiant one, you shine within us, outside of us. Even darkness shines when we remember. Hallowed be thy name. Here we affirm that the name of God is holy. In the Aramaic, the images evoke the act of clearing or sweeping and preparing the ground for something very special. When we make something holy, we set it apart. We put it in a place especially prepared for it, and we honor it. We create an inner shrine, an inner temple, a heart shrine, so to speak. We let go, releasing all the clutter, all the busyness. And we are silent and receptive to that still small voice within us. Here we might say, focus your light within us, make it useful. As the rays of a beacon show the way, help us breathe on holy breath, feeling only you. This creates a shrine inside in wholeness. Your name, your sound, can move us if we tune our hearts as instruments for its tone. Thy kingdom come. Now the word kingdom, Malkutha, comes from a root word that refers to great mother. So therefore it points to the ruling principle that guides our lives. By uniting our will with God, we acknowledge that our duty is to express the divine in our lives. The light has come. Create your reign of unity now through our fiery hearts and willing hands. Let your counsel rule our lives, clearing our intention for co-creation. Unite our I can with yours. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Your one desire then acts with ours, as in all light, so in all forms. Let all wills move together in your vortex, as stars and planets swirl through the sky. This is the fourth and the central line of the prayer. When we began, we remembered our source, our creator, and we felt the blessings of the cosmos. We have let go to clear a holy place inside for this oneness to live. From this new beginning, we have clarified our goal, which is uniting with God. We have realized our power of co-creation and envisioned our next step, which is allowing God's heart desire to be done consistently through our life expression. And this concludes the first half of the prayer. Next, we move from an inner acknowledgement of our oneness to consider the way in which we interact with others. Give us this day our daily bread. Lachma, which is the root word for bread, means not only food for our physical body, but also understanding. Understanding refers to that which stands under and supports us, which in ancient cultures pointed to the divine feminine, or Mother Earth. We are urged here to treasure the source of our bread by not hoarding or demanding from the earth more than we need, instead respecting the source of our most basic support. Grant what we need each day in breath, bread, and insight, subsistence for the call of growing life. Help us fulfill what lies within the circle of our lives. Each day we ask for no more, no less. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. This phrase invokes a deeper letting go, which comes with forgiveness. Forgiveness is a gift we can give one another as well as ourselves, probably most importantly ourselves. So let go of mistakes that tie ourselves and others in knots. In Luke, the word sin is used instead of debt, and in some translations we see trespasses. But all these terms mean the same. They mean a mistake, and a mistake can always be corrected. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' gifts. And then, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, this is probably the least understood and the most frequently mistranslated line in the prayer, according to Dr. Klotz. God is love, so why would he lead us into temptation? And why would he leave us there once we got there? That first line more accurately means, don't let us enter, or don't let us be seduced by appearances, or don't let us heap up what is false that leads us to unrest and agitation and diverts us from the purpose of our lives. There's a lot of meaning there. Bisha is the word that is usually translated as evil. It can also mean sin, mistake, or an inappropriate action. And in the second line, we're also reminded again to let go, to loosen hold of, to release. Don't let surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. And this concludes the body of the prayer. The last line, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Now, scholars disagree on whether or not this line was originally a part of the prayer. However, it was common practice to include some kind of closing statements of any prayer. So this or something like it would not be out of place. The ending returns to the creative visioning of God, the power to accomplish these visions, and the beauty that adds grace and artistry to them. So we can say, truly, power to these statements. May they be the ground from which all my actions grow, sealed in trust and faith. Amen. It's a little difficult to put all that to music, huh? My intent today was to help you remember your power of creation and to give you some insight into a deeper understanding of this teaching of Jesus and how allowing the resonance of his love to express who we truly are. in God, as God. We are God. We are the expression of God here on earth. And as we extend love to all, this realization comes home to us. Now, our meditation today is we're going to listen to a recording of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And then when the recording ends, we will sing the prayer in our native language. So I would like you to maybe close your eyes and visualize walking with Jesus on a hillside or along the seashore. Allow his words to move within us. And he says, pray in this manner.
Sound from the internet.
Not a silent prayer.
The sound's not going to come. Okay. Thank you, Luann. Temptation, but deliver us from evil. For
Ginger. That's wonderful. And that particular one was on YouTube, correct? Because I imagine many of them are. I'd love to hear it, I plan to. So now we will take an offering for unity. As we take our offerings in our hands, we bless them with this offering statement. Divine love blesses through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give love because I trust in God. Once again, please welcome Trinity to Mass and your reverence.